Welcome back to our weekly digital marketing breakdown. I am Patrice Valentine. I am the owner here at ProFusion Web Solutions. Today, we are looking at a question that I get probably once a week from someone who's just trying to figure out how to best use digital marketing for their business. The question is, should I be doing SEO, which is search engine optimization, or Google Ads? It is a good question, and it's frustrating because again, it's one of those questions where my answer is going to be it depends. There isn't always a clean, universal answer for which option to go with, or if you need to do both. But hopefully, by the end of the day today, or at the end of this quick 30-minute webinar, you will have enough information to be able to make a decision that's right for you, or to be able to at least consult with some of your customers and help them answer this question for themselves. We're going to talk about not only how to choose which platform or which option to go with, but also looking at some of the things that can kind of go wrong or what businesses do wrong when they're trying to decide which channel to go with. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Here's our quick agenda for the day. We're going to start with just kind of talking through what these two different options are, what search engine optimization and Google Ads actually are. I made the very conscious choice to not talk about answer engine optimization or AEO, though it is kind of interwoven into SEO right now. So we're talking about traditional search engine optimization, which is having Google, if someone's going to Google, to have Google pull up the organic results for your website and not looking at actually getting your website and content cited in the AI overview. So we are specifically talking about SEO here. We're going to take a look at what each one of those are, because I feel like some of the confusion on trying to decide which way to go comes from people just having kind of a fuzzy picture of the mechanics of both of those. Then we're going to jump into the decision framework and figure out how to decide which one is right for you, when it might make sense to use both. And we'll finish by looking at some tracking metrics and kind of some things to make sure that you're aware of before you begin implementing these. Now, on my screen, I just quickly pulled up. So if you're really not familiar with pay per click, which is Google Ads versus organic SEO, I did a quick search on my screen for professional IT management near me. You'll see at the top it says sponsored results, and then there are three different listings. You can see the first one is for the 20, then Miles IT, then TPX. So you can see the results in the red. Those are Google Ads. Those are, if I click on any one of those, that company is going to have to pay a fee to Google based on the click. So they are pay per click, literally being paid for every click. You can see even there is one in the Maps listing. So the one for Premier Business Team is also a paid search results. And then if we continued scrolling down, so you can see this is actually a pretty competitive market in that there were 3 sponsored results at the top, followed by 1 sponsored result in the Google Map. And then finally, if we scroll down beyond the Google Map, you'll see all of the organic listings there below. So those next ones that follow are the organic listings. The organic listings is what is influenced by SEO, and the ones that were in red, those are influenced by Google Ads or pay per click. So let's start by talking about Google Ads. We like to look at it as kind of renting visibility for your website. And here's the general structure of how it works. You're going to tell Google in terms of price that you're willing to pay X amount of dollars per month, per week, whatever your budget is. You're going to give them a specific budget, and you're going to say, when someone searches for these specific terms, it could be emergency plumber, wedding photographer in Whatcom County, whatever the term is, you want to bid on those terms. So when someone searches for those, then your ad will have a chance to appear at the top of the results page. If they click on your ad, like we were looking at the ads in red, if they click on your ad, you will pay for that. If no one clicks on it, you don't pay. So you only pay if someone clicks. That's the pay per click part of it. The big advantage to Google Ads and pay per click is that it's fast to launch, and it's somewhat controllable in terms of geographic reach, keywords, budget. So it's controllable for those kind of things. You can have an ad up and running within a matter of hours. You can target by location, even down to a specific zip code where someone might be searching from. You can get really specific by time of day, by device type. So if they're looking on a PC versus a Mac, even by audience type that Google might place that person into. So age group, demographic, things like that. So you have a lot of levers where you can determine who sees your ad at what time and where they see it. The catch, the big problem with Google Ads is at the moment you stop paying, the traffic goes away. So only if you're paying for Google Ads will you start to see the traffic from Google Ads. There is no residual benefit whatsoever. You're simply renting the space that's going to get you on the results list. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I will get to that. So we're gonna talk about keywords. The question just came in. I like to answer the questions in real time if I can, but the question just came in about negative keywords, and we're going to talk about that. It is close to the end of the PowerPoint, but negative keywords are definitely something you want to look at. So for a quick example of that might be if I am running a campaign for ProFusion. So if we're bidding on web developer near me or web developer, WordPress developer, something like that, what I would want to make sure that I'm doing is putting in the negative keyword. So in that phrase, I don't care if someone's searching for web developer salary or web developer jobs, unless I'm hiring, which, so if we're hiring, great. But if we're not hiring, if we're looking for customers, we would want to include those as negative keywords so that when someone is searching for those terms, we are not, our ad is not showing. So yes, negative keywords are equally as important as the keywords that you're selecting. We'll talk about keyword selection again towards the end of the presentation, but that is a very good question. If we look at search engine optimization, this is kind of the other side that we're talking about. Instead of paying for placement, you're going to be what we'd consider kind of earning your placement. When SEO is done well, Google or whatever search engine you're using is going to decide that your content is the most relevant, it's the most trustworthy for the given result. So that's going to put you up at that top level in the green section that we looked at on that first slide. That's going to show up directly below the ads. You don't pay for the click, so someone could come and click on your link, and you're not paying for that. You don't pay for the impressions. The traffic is just going to come to you. The trade-off on search engine optimization is it takes time. Search engine optimization is not just a switch that you can flip that automatically will start, kind of bringing traffic to your site. It's typically going to take at least 3 months before you start seeing some meaningful movement in rankings. It can take longer than that, depending on how competitive your industry. So if you're in the mortgage industry, if you're real estate, if you are a lawyer in the legal services, if you're like an HVAC technicians, a lot of those are super, super competitive. So if you're in those industries, it might take you even longer and require more effort on your part to gain those organic rankings. However, once you are ranking, you typically are going to keep that rank unless the algorithm changes drastically or unless Google starts to see your site as not valuable, meaning people are going to your website and then immediately bouncing off of it. So they're not finding the content that was promised in your description or title. So as long as you continue to build out relevant content, as long as you continue to answer frequently asked questions, go back and look at last week's webinar about that one. The effect of solid search engine optimization can be compounding as it continues to work for you and allows people to find you without you having to pay every single time that they click. So it might take longer, but eventually the asset works for you instead of the other way around. We like to think of this as rather than renting the space, you're buying the space. Again, at the whim of Google, right? The algorithm can change. What they find important today might not be important tomorrow. But in the 24 years that we've been doing this, if it's good for the user, it's good for search engine optimization. So relevant content, keyword or questions that or content that answers questions, things like that are going to help your customer make a decision is going to be good for search engine optimization as well. Just a quick side-by-side comparison here so you can kind of see what I was talking about. Everything that we talked about is on this chart, but the one thing I really kind of want to draw your attention to is that bottom line. The risk with SEO is simply that it's more of a slow start, which can be frustrating if you need leads now. So if you need that leads right now, if you need traffic to your website, if you need that traffic and conversions at this exact moment, you're going to want to lean towards Google Ads. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The risk with SEO is you have that slow start. So it takes a little bit to kind of get that engine up and running. The risk with Google Ads is you could be spending money without seeing conversions if it's not set up properly. So you could be opening up the pipeline, sending traffic to your website. But if you're not set up to handle conversions, you don't have a funnel, you don't have e-commerce, you don't have, the proper calls to actions in place, you might be spending money without actually seeing any conversions. And that's a real problem, especially if you're a small business. So let's talk a little bit about when each one is the right call. Let's start with Google Ads, because I think people either lean on them too much, where they're relying solely on Google Ads, or Google Ads can get dismissed really quickly as well. And either one of those is really the right thing. You kind of want to digest it a little bit before you make that decision, the decision on whether to go with Google Ads or not. Google Ads makes the most sense when you need results in that compressed time frame. If you opened a new location, if you just launched a new service, if you're in kind of a slow crunch and business is slow and you need the phone to ring, ads can do that kind of more immediate traffic. SEO cannot, traditional SEO cannot. Ads are also really valuable and maybe not utilized enough as a testing tool. If you're trying to figure out which messaging maybe resonates with your audience, if you're looking at saying affordable versus premium, for example, or fast versus thorough, you can run two versions of your ad and you can let the data kind of tell you which one works better. So whichever ad is performing better, you might lean more into that messaging instead of going the other route. So ads can be a really good testing tool as well. It'll tell you what makes people actually click through onto your website. An important thing to note is ads work best when you do have something clear to track, whether that be whatever your call to action is. So if you have a funnel, if it's a PDF download, if it's a purchase, if it's a estimate form, even if it's a phone call, we can track phone calls. We'll talk about that. Or booking, if you have a booking software, ads are going to work best if you have a clear path of, I want people to visit my website. I want them to fill out my request and estimate form. There's step one, step two, and step three is you get the lead. So ads are going to work best when you're really trying to get that conversion to go through. Search engine optimization, on the other hand, is going to be the right move if you're playing a little bit of a longer end game. And really, if you think about it, every small business or business really should be looking at the long-term game. So search engine optimization is something that you want to think about because it does take some time to get those results. The biggest argument we can make for doing organic search optimization is ownership over the content. When you rank organically, no one can outbid you for that position. I mean, they can bid you in the search results, but if you're ranking really high organically and you've got really high value content, it's really hard for somebody else to come in and knock you out of that. You're not going to get a bill at the end of the month for the clicks. A competitor with a bigger ad budget can't just buy their way past you like they can in Google Ads. SEO is, and again, we talked a little bit about AEO, that answer engine optimization. We talked about that last week too with AI search, and we actually have a webinar coming up in 3 weeks that really dives into the 5 things that impact the AEO, the answer engine optimization. But if you look at what is good for search engine optimization foundation, if that is strong, you're better positioned to be found in the AI overviews as well. So the work kind of compounds itself in more than just Google or Bing. It's going to compound itself into some of the answer engines as well. SEO, the biggest thing, it requires patience. And for some new businesses, or businesses maybe in their slow season, you don't have time. So if time isn't an option, if patience isn't an option for you, that's when you want to layer in some of the ads. The mistake is treating them like competitors. So here's a little bit of a mindset shift that we want to kind of have you take away from today. Is these tools, they're both tools and they can be used on the same job for different items, right? So just like you might be building a fence and you might use both a screwdriver and a hammer. Two tools, they both would get the job done, but you use them for different things. So I see Google Ads and SEO very similar. We see businesses get into arguments about we're an SEO company only, or we only do paid ads, and it's an identity thing for them. And really, what you need to be looking at is what is going to best get the job done. It's not which one do we believe is going to work more. It's going to be, what does my business need right now? What does my business need in the next 6 months? Those are the answers that need to drive your decision in whether or not you're going to use Google Ads or SEO or a combination of the both, excuse me. And the combination of the both is the one that we see typically is going to give you the most bang for your buck. Here's the sequence in which if you were starting out a new business or if you needed to start driving traffic right now, this is typically the sequence that we would want to suggest you use, depending on budget and your goals, obviously. But for most small businesses, this is a good kind of staged path to get you ranking pretty well in the search engines. The first one is going to be to start with ads, not because ads are better than SEO, but because SEO is going to take some time, right? So we've talked about that. If you need leads now, start with ads, run a focused, well-tracked campaign. We'll talk about tracking on the next slide. And on your highest value keywords. And again, in the settings of the Google Ads, you can do the negative keywords. You can make sure you're really targeted geographically so that you're not wasting money on people who are out of town that wouldn't buy from you. So you can get very targeted with that first stage one. The data that you get from your ads campaign can be incredibly useful for your organic search because you'll actually be able to see what keywords actually are driving traffic to your website, which ones maybe you're getting a lot of impressions on, but they're not clicking through. So you can kind of make some educated decisions on which keywords you want to target. You'll be able to see which keywords have a lot of competition and which ones do not. Now, that is going to be very useful because in stage 3, if we're layering in organic search engine optimization while we are also running a Google Ads campaign, we can start to take the keywords that we want to rank for organically. And as we increase your organic rankings, we can decrease the spend. My hands aren't doing what they need to be doing in the video here, but as you're increasing your organic rankings, you can decrease the spend for those keywords. You're already ranking organically for those keywords, so we can decrease the spend on those and maybe attack other keywords that are harder or more out of reach for us to get to. So we can adjust the spend, reallocate the funds to make sure that we are getting your business seen in the highest visibility places and for the keywords that are going to make the biggest impact for your business. Over time, the goal would be that SEO is kind of the baseline. So your organic optimization is continually serving you over the course of, many, many months and years. And we continue adding to that with additional content, with adding new FAQs, with new pages on your website, with press releases, with content that is high value. We continue to add to that. And so the baseline remains, you're always holding steady and you're ranking well for the keywords that matter most to your business. And then we use Google Ads to fill in any gaps. So if there's a new service offering that we don't rank well for organically, we can use Google Ads to fill in those gaps. If we want to do some testing, we can use Google Ads to fill in those gaps. So the combined approach is really actually a quite smart way to go about it because you can learn a lot from both tools and then kind of work them with each other so that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck. This is the section when we talk about tracking that I am most passionate about because this is where I see most businesses, when they come to us for an audit or having us review what they're doing, this is where we see a lot of wasted money, not necessarily from choosing the wrong channel, but from not tracking what actually matters. When you run Google Ads, there's a very comprehensive dashboard that's going to give you all of the metrics. It's almost overwhelming when you first log into Google Ads. Most people, when they report on Google Ads, are going to report on impressions, which is how many times your ad appeared in the search. So number of impressions, the number of clicks, which is how many people actually visited your website, actually clicked on your ad and visited your website or your landing page. And then they also look at the click-through rate, which is how many people or what percentage of people who saw the ad actually clicked. These are all interesting metrics, but none of them are going to pay the bills. The one metric that we want to look at is, did this person become a customer? Or, obviously if you have an e-commerce store, easy to track if they became a customer. If you're not e-commerce, if you're a service-based business, did they take an action that leads to them becoming a customer? A phone call, a form submission, a calendar booking, something like that. If you can't connect your ad spend to your outcomes, then you're flying a little bit blind with your ads and you're not able to make the tweaks that are going to best benefit your business. So tracking is of utmost importance to be able to tell if your ads campaign is actually working. If we look a little bit more at the metrics, again, I just wanted to kind of drive this home a little bit. There's two types of metrics, and making this distinction is pretty important if you're looking at whether or not you have a successful campaign running. Vanity metrics are the ones, they feel good. They're the numbers that look really great on charts because they're usually pretty, like you can make them very big just by increasing your budget. If your ad got 50,000 impressions, that's great. If your website had, 800 clicks, that's great. You can tell the click-through percentage on that. Those numbers can be encouraging, but they don't give you a whole picture on whether or not your campaign was successful. You don't want to be using ads to create brand awareness. Ads for us, for small businesses, are going to be used to drive conversions. That's the main goal of an ad. If you're paying for someone to click through to your website, you want to make sure that your investment is producing revenue. The business metrics are the one that we would want to be looking at. So how many phone calls did you get from your ad or from your website? We'll talk about tracking phone calls on the next slide. How many form submissions did you get? Did people sign up for your newsletter? How many appointments were booked? What did each one of those leads cost you? So you can tell your actual cost per lead, which then you can tell based on your cost per lead what your cost per client is, or what your cost per acquisition is. So you can actually drill down even more and find out, okay, how much is it costing me to get new clients from this Google Ads campaign? So all of the business metrics are the ones that allow you to make good decisions about your marketing budget. If you know those numbers, then you can decide, okay, I want to invest more into this because I'm seeing the results, or maybe it's time to peel back on the Google Ads because I'm just not seeing any type of actual metrics coming through from there. Now, if we look at how you can actually track calls, not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you're running Google Ads right now, you do have the ability to track the number of phone calls that came in and which phone number it came from. So you can tell the phone number that actually called you, which then you can do a reverse lookup in your CRM if you want to see, okay, are these customers of mine that are looking at my phone number and finding my ad and calling me from the ad, or are these new customers or new clients that are or prospects that I'm actually trying to get. So Google Ads has built-in call tracking. You just have to make sure it's turned on. It is not turned on by default. You have to go in and turn that on. In your ads, when you're building them, you want to build in your call extensions. That's going to show your phone number directly from the ad itself. Again, that's an option that you turn on. Google, if you're doing on a mobile device, if someone clicks through from their ad, you can click directly the mobile phone number. That's a clickable link right there from the Google Ads on a mobile device. If you're tracking phone calls on your website, you'd want to have a unique tracking phone number that is on your website or the landing page that is a unique phone number to that specific campaign so that you can, again, track how many phone calls are coming from that campaign. And then honestly, we do it here is every time the phone rings, if it's a new person, and even on our estimate form, we have the question of, hey, how did you find out about us? It just gives us that valuable data. It allows us to thank people if it's a referral. So it allows us to thank our existing customers if they're sending referrals our way. And it allows us to be able to track. They say they found us in Google, they found us on Facebook, whatever it is, it allows us to get a better picture of how people are actually finding us. And it's interesting to see how quickly patterns do start to emerge when you're running campaigns and you have different offers. You can see different patterns emerge when you're actually asking people how they found out about you. I think this is everyone's favorite marketing quote is, I know that half of my advertising dollars are wasted. The problem is I just don't know which half. And that is why tracking is so important, is we can tell then, if we're wasting advertising dollars or not. And then the other thing we want to drive home today is before you spend $1 on an ad or any time on search engine optimization, you want to know what your conversion is. Literally write down what your conversion, if it's a form completion, if it's an actual purchase. What we don't want is someone coming to us and saying, well, we just need more traffic to our website. That is not, while I can measure traffic, I can measure how much additional traffic we brought to your website. It's not specific enough for us to be able to say, the amount of traffic increase brought X amount of customers, because, just an increase in traffic doesn't always equate to additional customers. So that number, that impressions or that click, it can just be a number that is somewhat meaningless if you're not actually receiving conversions from it. So track that phone call, track the form submissions. Once you've named your conversion, then you want to make sure that that conversion is being tracked. Google Analytics is a great tool, your CRM, your booking system, however you're tracking that data, make sure that if you have that conversion named in Google Ads or just named when you're writing any ad campaign, make sure that it is able to be tracked. If you do nothing else from today's session, make sure that you know what your conversion is, you can name it, and that it is being tracked so you can tell whether or not your marketing is working. Here's back to that quick note about keywords. There's a concept that we talk about. It's called money keywords. Those are the ones that are worth spending money on, right? Makes sense. Not all keywords are money keywords. Some keywords are searched by people who are just curious. They might be at the top of that funnel. They're just learning more. Typically, I wouldn't want to be spending Google ad dollars on a top of funnel keyword to educate someone. I would like to spend money more on the bottom of the funnel when they're in that more purchase ready decision making time of their purchase history. So what is a plumber? They're researching. I don't necessarily want to bid on that term. If someone's searching for emergency plumber in Bellingham, that person is actively ready to find a plumber. They probably have water coming through their ceiling, right? I'm not going to bid on web design ideas because that's just someone who's looking for my portfolio and who might just want to, steal how we built a menu off of a website. I do want to bid on web design company near me. That person is likely ready to talk. We're looking for a proposal of some kind. So the difference that you want to look for is the money keywords are going to be the high intent keywords. They're going to have words like near me or higher or cost or book or quote, things like that, things that are action words that someone is looking to take an action with the services that you offer. So that just a quick difference. And then again, those negative keywords, it's having a list of keywords is very important. And so is a list of negative keywords. I will say a lot of the negative keywords will present themselves to you. So you might not be able to think of all of the potential things that people are searching for. But if you, with Google Ads specifically, you will want to monitor your campaign on a very regular basis so that every single day you're logging in and saying, okay, what keyword brought someone to my ad? And then you can look at that keyword and say, this is relevant or this is not relevant. If it is not relevant, you do not want to bid on it, then you're going to want to mark that as a negative keyword. Incredibly important thing to do. For your little homework this week, we have two different things. The first is go ahead and take 5 minutes to figure out what some of those money keywords might be, right? So determine what your money keywords would be. Again, things with intent. What would be the intent when someone is coming to your website that is going to make them want to buy or fill up the estimate form or pick up the phone? Before you even write down the keywords, though, if you're going to go in order here, the first thing you want to do is determine your goal and be honest about your time frame. Because again, that's going to be a pretty big indicator of which way you're going to go here. If you need leads right away, the next 30 days, and you have some money to invest into a campaign, it might make sense to go with Google Ads while doing some search engine optimization backing. So determine what your goal is, write that down. The second thing is name your conversion metric. So filling out the contact form, making a phone call, what is your conversion? That way we can know that it is what it actually is, what the goal is. And then we want to verify that it's being tracked. Okay, so we want to go into analytics and see that it's being tracked. You want to look at your CRM and make sure it's being tracked. In your email, whatever the conversion is, you want to make sure that you can track it. And then again, write down those 5 money keywords that would be the most high converting keywords for your business. Those are again those search terms that someone is looking for when they are ready to buy. If you do Google Ads or even SEO without this list, you might rank for keywords that bring you traffic, but aren't the ones that are going to allow people to convert or encouraging people to convert, right? So again, look at your goal. The goal is some level of conversion and make sure the keywords support those goals. So just to do a quick recap, and I see a couple questions in here, so we'll get to the questions in just a moment. Google Ads and SEO are both absolutely legitimate and powerful tools for digital marketing. They will help your website get seen. And I guess we should have caveated all of this that you do need to have a conversion ready website, a conversion focused website before you do any of this. We do want to bring traffic to a website that is ready to handle traffic and can handle those conversions. Neither is going to be the right answer for every situation. So businesses want, again, you want to take a look at their marketing budget. You want to take a look at what each one of them does, SEO versus Google, and then determine based on what your goals are, which one is going to work best for you. If you start with clarity, like what is your goal? What does the conversion look like? What keywords are worth going after? Then everything else is going to build from there. Okay. I do have a couple questions that have just popped in. So I know we're a little bit over time. Sorry about that. Um, there are links on the screen now to watch past webinars. This one will be archived on there as well. Our next webinar is the review system. We're talking about Google reviews, how to get them, how to encourage people to leave them for you. So we're going to talk through all that. But let's go ahead and jump into some questions here. Good question. Should I be using landing pages versus regular pages? My gut answer is just going to be yes on that, because, and there's a couple reasons why. This is specifically for Google Ads is what I'm going to be talking about. A landing page, let's say if I'm just going to use ProFusion as my example here. If we're looking at ProFusion, if someone's doing a search for a web developer near me and I send them to my homepage, they then have to figure out what to do next. So my homepage, we have calls to action. So there's the webinar call to action, there's the request an estimate call to action, but that person is looking specifically for website development. That's what their keyword was. I want to take them to a landing page that talks all about website development. It's going to give them the answers to their questions. It's going to, provide them with all the information about website development because that is the term they looked for. So we want to make it as easy as possible for the user to find the information that they're looking for first. And then second, part of your cost in Google Ads is determined by your quality score. So the quality score is going to be, it's many things, but part of your quality score is how well does your page that you're sending people to relate to the term that they're searching for. So if someone's searching for a blue widget and you have a page on your website called blue widget, and that is all that page is about, your quality score for that ad based on the headline for the ad, based on the description for the ad, based on the call outs for the ad, and then based on the landing page and the experience on the page, that determines your quality score. And if you have a high quality score, you actually can have cheaper clicks. Your cost per click can go down because the quality score is high. So I'm always a big proponent of sending people to a landing page that is very specific to the keywords and the terms that people are searching for. Typically, if we're going to be running an ads campaign for you, we're going to dissect your business a little bit so that we know here are the main services. So let's say you're a landscaper and you really want to focus on commercial lawn care, but you also have some residential stuff. If someone's searching for commercial lawn care, we're not going to send them to the residential page. That doesn't mean anything to them. So we want to make sure that when we're setting up your ad campaign, that we have a silo for commercial lawn care, and all of the keywords in that bucket in that campaign are all about commercial related landscaping, lawn care, whatever it is. So breaking it up into chunks that make sense logically, so that there is all the keywords are related to that commercial lawn care. The landing page is related to that. The headlines, the body copy, if you're doing AI generated copy, all of that is related to that same service. And that would be, each service would have its own campaign within your Google Ads. Question from D, how much should I budget for Google Ads? Again, I started off the presentation saying I hate the it depends answer, but it depends. And it depends heavily on your industry and your market, because if you're in a really competitive local area, you might be looking at $6,000 a month to get some decent traction in Google Ads. If it's less competitive, you might be looking at $500 a month. It really depends on how competitive the market is and kind of what keywords you're looking at. What we would want to look at, instead of looking at the overall cost, is looking at the cost per lead. If you're spending $500 a month, but you're generating 20 qualified inquiries from the leads, that's great. You might be then saying, great, jump it up to $5,000 a month so we can generate 100 leads. But if you're spending $1,500 and you're getting 3 leads or you're getting 1 lead, then we have a problem that we would need to look at. So looking at the cost per lead and what would work for you to say, okay, I'm willing to spend $1,000 to get 1 qualified lead into our business, then we would want to look at that and kind of arrange the budget towards how much the lead is actually worth to you. Shane question here, should I use the Google Ads smart campaigns or manage it manually? That's a good question. We do all manual management just because we turn on expert mode, and that gives us the ability to tweak every little nuance of your campaign. If you are managing your own campaigns, a smart campaign is not a bad way to start. My only problem with smart campaigns is they give you significantly less control and transparency into what's actually happening behind the scenes. You often won't be able to see what keywords triggered your ad to show up. So you can't really get those when we were talking about the stages and how you can stage in SEO. You can't really get you're not always going to get a list of the keywords. Here's the phrases that someone searched in order to have this ad be triggered, which then doesn't really help us when we're trying to do the organic optimization on your page. So smart campaign, if you have a lower budget and you just want to get something started, you can start there, but it does become tricky because you don't get as much visibility into what your ads are actually doing for you. You'll still get the same numbers. You'll get a lot of those vanity metrics, but you don't get to see a lot of the behind the scenes data that is actually really valuable if you get in there and pull that out. All right, great questions. Let me see if there's anything else that came in. Nothing else at this point. Great questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, next week, we're talking about the review system. Google reviews is becoming more and more important. I can't stress this enough. I know we've talked about Google reviews since week 1 of these webinars. Next week, we're actually going to look at how to put a system in place so that you can request Google reviews without feeling that vulnerable. What if I get a 1-star review? We have a way to talk through that and mitigate that a little bit. So we will talk about that next week. Appreciate you so much for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.